Okay, very good. Yeah, so again, welcome to everybody to our IASS Tuesday talk. Today we are going to hear presentations by Henrike Knappe and Rosine Kelz about the Institute's new focal topic, Justice in Sustainability. Both of our speakers are part of the research group Politicizing the Future. Henrike is the group leader and Rosine is a research associate. Both of them will be part of the new focal topic coordination team. 1 second. Today, Henrike and Rosine will not only give us an overview of the topic and present to us the plans for the focal topic year, but will also share with us ideas for participation and contributions and leave much space for questions, feedback, and discussion. Henrike will start with the presentation with an overview of the topic. Afterwards, Rosine will present to you the plans for the focal topic year and how you can contribute to the different activities planned. The presentation of Rosine is followed by an extensive discussion round in which you are invited to ask questions, give feedback, or make comments. We will check questions in the chat, but you have also the possibility to raise your hand. I also remind you again that this session will be recorded. That said, let's start directly with our first presentation by Henrike. Henrike, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Niklas. And Niklas, by the way, is also part of our team and supports us in the focal topic coordination as well. Okay, yeah, I'm really happy that we finally can present you some first ideas and plans about the focal topic year. As Niklas already said, I will give you an overview of the different topics and dimensions and also questions raised in the field of justice and sustainability and how they link up to different research foci also that are already present at the IASS, and then Rosine will give you more insights into what we are preparing at the moment, what our plans are, and so on and so forth for the focal topic year. Okay, next slide, please, Rosine. Rosine? Yeah, thank you. So I want to first begin with some spotlights on research groups that are already at the IASS. And I'm sorry, I made this slide yesterday, so I didn't ask the respective groups. I hope it's fine for the four of you. To just give you, or those who are not so familiar with the justice and sustainability topic, give you an overview of what is already happening at the IASS in terms of the justice research or justice related research, and yeah, have a more lively impression of what justice means instead of having on dry definitions of it. And I picked, of course, this is very selective, and there are many, many more projects that are dealing with this topic. And I picked, for examples that are quite recent or that have produced recent publications or workshops, because I found this yeah, quite stimulating also for discussion. The first is the Social Sustainability Barometer. It's not that recent. It's a report from 2019, but I still found it interesting because it already hints us to, or already points to the importance of social justice in transitions. So the topic of just transitions, I think, is very important for the IASS. And in the Social Sustainability Barometer, the authors of the survey found out that citizens are very critical of the energy transition, of the conduct of the energy transitions, to be precise. And one critical point that is already mentioned in the report is that they are very critical about social justice implications, and that they don't feel justly treated and so on, and that they're concerned about this issue being neglected by the government. So this is maybe a first finding that I ISS research already had as an output. Then more recent examples are, for example, the second example is from the Xperi group, who are they are dealing with the mobility transition. And for example, Anne Klever just recently has written a blog post about gender and mobility, and here pointed out how different needs of the genders are relevant for transitions, for the mobility transition. And I found this picture really illustrative and really good in stating how the different mobility needs are between the genders. So men usually have those quite rather straightforward linear mobility needs to go to work and go back to work, and have more have to travel, have to commute farther distances, whereas women have multiple ways to go during the day. So those are daily routines, more or less, and have multiple goals to fulfill, going to work, but also care duties and so on. And they also switch much more often between different ways of transport. So, and this shows us how justice is also a relevant point in transition processes. Not only that we can here see, for example, if we take justice more seriously, in this case, gender justice, then this would also be an argument for more effective climate politics. In this way, more effective ways of reducing cars in cities, for example. But it also points to a more differentiated picture of this. So what kinds of needs are there? And those do not only affect gender, of course, but also different groups and what their needs are in transition processes. The third example is from the Governance of the Oceans group. Here, Aline Jecke recently has written a blog post on new technology, equity, and the law of the sea. And here pointed out how different or how unequal distribution of technology and research among few countries is critical in deep sea governance and in deep seabed mining especially. And here pointed out to this equity dimension of technology and science. Equally, also the fourth example from Governance of the Arctic points out or has a workshop coming up on Arctic ethics and indigenous research perspectives, and they also have this focus on unequal knowledge distribution here in the case of indigenous knowledge, so to say. So I just picked those examples to give you an overview of how diverse also justice issues can be treated only in the ISS. And now I want to present some broader lines of argumentation or debates that are going on in the justice research area, so to say, in order to give you an impression of what relevant, thank you, what are the relevant questions in the wider debate are. And here I want to pick 4 questions or 4 areas more or less. Those are intergenerational justice, with the recent example of the decision of the Federal Constitutional Court here in Germany, and what this means for justice and climate politics, environmental justice as a second point, climate justice as a more recent debate, and epistemic justice. And for the first, next slide, please, for the intergenerational justice, we can say the recent decision, which we already talked about also at the ISS of the Federal Constitutional Court, that said the climate law of the government is not effective, not strict enough. Is interesting as regards justice, because here we can see that justice issues are used to force in this case, the government, to have more effective climate law, so to say. And they use this argument that freedom needs to be distributed among generations more equally in order to say, okay, this is what the current government is doing is not enough in terms of climate mitigation. So here we can see that justice really becomes effective, so to say, for politics with this decision of the Federal Constitutional Court. The second example is environmental justice. Next slide. And this is, I think, a very classic discussion, or maybe also the so to say oldest discussion of justice. It dates back to the 1980s in the US and tackles all kinds of unequal affectedness by environmental hazards, so to say. And the main argument is that that already underprivileged groups are also unequally affected by all kinds of environmental problems, like, for example, air pollution, but also health issues. And I think this is something we also have a lot of research about in the IASS, for example, with our air pollution research group. And also on health issues, I think we have a lot of research going on. So I think this links nicely back also to those research groups. And I think it also became, again, a very relevant topic with the Corona pandemic, because then we also discussed this again, how Corona affects already underprivileged groups more disproportionately. So, and then what comes to the environmental justice debate is the climate justice debate. Next slide, please, which is a more recent debate on how, and this debate more or less points to questions of responsibility that are also, I think, very important and should be discussed and are already controversially discussed in the wider research field. And what I show you here is in the slide is a picture from a recent study that came out and that investigated which countries are historically responsible for climate change. And this is also a new angle, I think, on this issue. So they counted like all historical emissions from 1880 to now, and and made this graphic and also made a little video, so you can go on this YouTube link and you can see how this developed from 1880 until now, how also the ranks changed. And what is interesting here is that I think, of course, the usual climate justice argument comes to the fore that industrial countries from the global north are emitting the most, also historically, or they are among the top 10, of course. And so maybe we should, or this reinforces the argument to say, okay, they should also be the ones who are most responsible for CO2 emission reduction. But on the other hand, with the upcoming COP next week, we also see a controversial debate going on, because when we look at the picture and we see who is arguing for climate justice within the COPs, those are also countries like, for example, China and Brazil, who are saying, okay, we are not those countries from the global north who are the most emitters, and we need another, so we need to deal with it differently, and we can't have all those harsh regulations. Then we can see from this new study that, for example, China is on the second place, Brazil is on the fourth place, and so on and so forth. So this is quite a controversial debate about climate justice and who uses this for which kinds of policies. And I think this is very relevant also for the IASS, not least because we also have, for example, the climate group who is looking at those climate negotiations in more detail. And last but not least, we have the dimension of epistemic justice, which I think is also really relevant for the IASS, not only because we as IASS are doing a lot of research also about, or transdisciplinary research and how to use research in a co-creative and transformative way. And when we include this justice dimension, as for example, groups like the Arctic governments groups are doing, then we see, or then we can, for example, look at those studies like the ones that I put here on the slide from 2015, who look at geographical imbalances in scientific production of climate change knowledge, and they see that, okay, most of authors and scientists are living about the global north. And this is not only in itself, of course, something to be discussed, but also the effect that comes from this, that this imbalanced production of knowledge also affects, of course, policymaking and adaptation, and in a more general sense, how we perceive of global climate change. So what do we, what kind of data we refer to when we speak of global change, which is in one sense, climate change that is measured in the global north, so to say. Okay, and yeah, so those are like, I wanted to show you some of the dimensions that are relevant in justice and sustainability, and also show you the links to the IASS. And I think those are the dimensions we are discussing also with our broader justice group, so to say. And I think they will also become very relevant in the focal topic here. And now I hand over to Rosine, who give you more details about what we are planning and preparing at the moment.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, sorry, I'm a bit sick. Yeah, so now I will talk about what we are going to do during the focal topic year. And as Henrike already mentioned, the focal topic year is designed to build on the existing research strengths at the Institute. And one of its main goals is to create and strengthen synergies between different research groups who touch upon issues of justice on very different viewpoints. And to strengthen the synergies, I think the fellows that we will choose that are special for the focal topic year will also play an important role. And then another important point of the focal topic is that we represent all our good research on these issues to a broader public and to build stronger links with scientific communities working on justice. And for this, we will plan a number of activities. What we currently have done so far, or are currently doing, is we founded a core group that has representatives from the different areas of the Institute. And this core group is with us together involved in planning the focal topic year and also in the selection process of the fellows. And we now started to meet every 14 days. And we will continue to do this throughout the focal topic year, where then the fellows will join these meetings. And then the core group will take on other roles as well, not just the planning of events and publications, but also just to like discuss issues with the fellows and have this link back between areas and fellows. Currently, we mainly concentrate, as I said, on the selection of the fellows and on the planning of the kickoff workshop, as well as the first events that will take place in 2022. So about the kickoff workshop, which is the first thing that will happen, this is planned as an internal event that will give us again like a bigger opportunity for everybody at the IASS to learn more about what research on justice is already going on. So research groups who already work on this can give short presentations and then discuss their research with other people at the Institute, not so familiar with it yet. But we also want to give the room for discussion. So there might be different views about what justice and sustainability means for the IASS, where we should focus, or they're just like controversial issues related around justice, and we will also give the room to discuss these. So as I said, it will happen on December 14th from 2 to 6. And if you still want to contribute, you can write us at our new email address. And we would be happy if you would do this by November 7th latest, as we're already in the planning process. Okay, so, and the other thing we are currently quite busy with are the fellowships. So we are receiving applications at the moment, but they are still open. So if you have someone who is really quick with a last minute application and you think that's a perfect candidate, they still have time until the end of the week to send us an application. And then we will have an internal review process, and then it will go to external reviewers. And we hope that the first fellows will join us early in spring 2022. So we are also planning the public event series, as I said. So starting in late January, we'll have one event a month, sorry. And we decided that this will be a mix of events that are geared more to like the local community, to the general public, and events for an academic audience. And so there will be different types of events that we are planning. We are hoping that a lot of them, especially the community events, can happen on site. We will see how the situation develops. And again, we are already obviously in the planning project, but if you think you have this great idea for a speaker or other type of event that you would like to see happen later in the year, you can still write us and we will see if there's space for it. Okay, and then another very important part of the focal topic year is a publication strategy, where we have planned on writing one highly visible publication with a small group of researchers, and depending on the fellow selection, some of the fellows. But then there will also be a special issue that we hope could showcase a bit broader what is already like happening in research at the IASS, but also what are the fellows bringing. And maybe this is also something where we can include external speakers that have been here for discussion during the year. However, as you all know, there are already publications in the pipeline or just coming out that have a strong justice focus at the IASS. And so one important part of this year, as I said, is that we kind of bundle and show what is all happening to about this topic already. So we will have a website where we then collect all the publications that already have come out or are coming out during the year about justice and sustainability issues. And that brings me to the last point, that is the external communication. Moment, there it is. Yeah, so as I said, it is important that we communicate externally, and for that there will be a sub-site on the main IASS website that is linked to the main site about the focal topic year, and there you will find links to all the upcoming events and then recordings of past events, but also all the publications that are happening or will be collected on this website, and it's currently building. Yeah, and our external communication will also probably involve a Twitter account. However, we think it's also important that we keep up a good focus on internal communication, and for that we decided on a newsletter that we will send every other month internally to everybody at the IASS, to just say what's going on internal workshops or meetings or anything else interesting happening with the focal topic year. And as said before, if you have something that you want to have spread around either internally in the newsletter or it should be included on the website, please email us to our new email address, justice@iass-potsdam.de. And that's it for me from now. Thank you.
So yeah, thank you, Henrike and Rosine, for your both presentations. We will come now to our discussion round. So if you have any questions, comments or feedback, please write in the chat or raise your hand. And I see that Manuel Rivera already rose his hand. So yeah, Manuel, if you want to ask a question or make a comment, please.
Thanks, Niklas. Thanks, Rosine and Henrike. Yeah, I wanted to ask a simple question first. I heard a lot on the what and the how of what there's what's there possibly to do, but on the why, I only heard that there were already a lot of things going on at the IASS, which one could possibly bundle and make more synergetic. But do you feel that you want to achieve something specific with this? Is there some conceptual shortcoming you feel that the IASS is especially fit to cover, or a policy gap that it could close with these things? So the normative intuition behind highlighting this topic, so that would interest me. I mean, I have my own ideas about it, but I was curious to know what the driving force behind this is.
Yeah, thank you, Manuel. Yeah, maybe I made it not really explicit. We think that the justice topic is, first of all, really an up-and-coming topic at the moment in sustainability research, and is discussed on this different dimension that I laid out in different fora. So I think as the IASS is already doing research about it, the IASS is a perfect place to really contribute to this, and also maybe set the agenda on different dimensions of justice and sustainability. I think as we are an institute that is interdisciplinary, that is not focused on a rather narrow one topic issue, we are perfectly fitted to make a contribution to this issue and to argue in a more normative way, which I try to not do so much because I'm not always sure if this is appealing, so to say. I think, I mean, you, Manuel, you had like years ago this study where you asked people at the IASS what are the most relevant or important drivers for their motivation to work in this field. And I think one of your main findings are that justice is one of the main issues that people are concerned about. And I think this is something coming up now even more also in the general debate, with those debates on climate justice, with the Fridays for Future movement, of course, but also we see this in those transition processes that the IASS is researching, as I said, for example, in the energy transition and so on. And I think this is something where there are a lot of controversies in this, but there's also a lot of open questions that needs to be tackled in a way. And I think this is really what I think would be a great contribution from the IASS, externally speaking, so to say, as a contribution for the scientific and debate, and also sustainability policy debate. And internally speaking, I would say that our mission for this focal topic here is definitely to integrate the IASS even more and make these links more visible, and have this focal topic running as something like a common roof under which we all can find our angles on how to approach this issue and gain more visibility also in this regard. So I think those are our drivers to focus on this specific issue.
So right now I do not see any more questions. John is raising his hand.
Right. Hey, you guys. So as there were no other questions, I'd be very interested, and I don't know if this is the perfect stage for that, but if there are no other questions, I'd be interested to hear Manuel's ideas as questions to his answer.
Okay, may I then, sorry, it's a bit surprising, but yes, well, I've not come up with this idea of establishing the focal topic, but one thing that really concerns me politically, because what you just said, Henrike, still sounded a bit to me that you saw, well, there's of course this internal aspect of the institute, but the opportunity you saw outside the institute was more of an academic one. You spoke about debates, but which, I mean, apart from the academic realm, which political necessities could the ISS contribute to? And there, my personal intuition is that I often see justice either not used enough in political arguments or misused in the sense that local conflicts about justice are used against global environmental protection, or even that global environmental protection is framed only as a protection thing. So it's a threat that's common somehow to all, and so. But this global justice aspect, which is inherent to the sustainability idea since its modern beginnings, which is kind of part of the sustainability discourse. This is really hard again and again to translate into arguments and narrations that are received well in the local and national arena. So I think this is really a necessity that often, because either the problems are then localized in a manner that kind of does deliberately not talk about global justice because it wouldn't mobilize people, or they are even used against certain things because they say, yeah, but we have to care for the poor commuters who, and so, and then you're talking only about local compensations and so on. But that this whole climate thing, for instance, is in itself an issue of global justice, which you mentioned. This is very seldom translated into daily political and mediatic speech and writing. And I think this is something the ISS should definitely try to promote more.
Yeah, Henrike, do you have an answer to Manuel?
I don't know if I have a definite answer, but I'm trying to respond. Yeah, I mean, I think this is what if I understood you correctly, this is what I wanted to say in terms of the climate justice debate. So and it also applies locally. I think this is something we also discussed earlier. So the justice arguments can be put forward in order to refrain from doing more climate protection, for example. In the global arena, we can see this at the COPs, for example, when we discuss who's responsible, who should reduce the most, and so on and so forth. So there we see that justice arguments can be put forward for some countries to say, okay, I don't have to do something, or we don't have to do something, and so on and so forth. The same applies on a local level. In specific transition processes, we see that social inequalities are put forward as arguments against transition processes. Or this is something we discussed. This comes from the conservative parties, for example, from more right-wing actors, to say, okay, climate protection, climate mitigation, okay, but we need to also raise the social question, so to say. And I think this is a misuse, I would say. And that's why I think it's really imperative and important for example, institutes like the ISS to come forward with evidence-based research on this, but also, of course, with policy proposals on how to integrate justice and sustainability in a productive manner, and not having this as two counter players in the discourse, so to say. And I think you can, like, those arguments that are put forward, they can be proven and they can also be falsified in many ways, I would say, but this is something I think we need to engage more as sustainability scholars and practitioners in this kind of field of discussion. And yeah, that's why I totally agree with you. And I think this is something we should do on the research side, but also on the politics or practitioner side, ideally.
Thank you, Henrike. So Manuel, if you are confident with that answer, then I would go to the next ones in the row. And I think we start now with Dino, if you have a question or comment.
Yes. Yeah, my perspective is that there is an interesting research going on at our fellow partner institute, PIC. They coined it Planetary Justice, and this is what I would like to do research in my personal application to a social justice fellowship. But I think it would be a very relevant perspective also considered within our IASS fellowship, because this is linking, yeah, especially with regards to the planetary boundary concept and this question of what Manuel just said, what is global justice? And my educated guess would be it's a relevant work to be done to link this towards systemic risks, where we have these epistemological challenges of complexity, uncertainty, and social-political ambiguity. So this is my contribution at this stage, very brief, but I wanted to highlight what I think is relevant at this stage.
Yes, definitely. I totally agree. So I think the planetary justice concept is very relevant also for the IASS. Rosine and I also discussed this concept already. I don't know, Rosine, if you want to say something. I think there's also a theoretical debate going on how to translate global justice concepts into the planetary scale. And yeah, I think this is a very relevant debate. Yeah, definitely. Rosine, do you want to add something?
Yeah, not really, actually. I don't know. Dino, did you unmute you on because you wanted to add something, or?
No, I just in case I want to say something after you said something. It's all right.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think it's a quite interesting question if like how our research that comes more from political science and political theory as ideas of justice that then would more be comfortable with language like global justice, but also like have interest in post-colonial justice and all that, in how far that is linked to current debates on planetary justice, which often have very similar topics, but just come from different disciplines. So I think that's an interesting part of the justice conversation I hope we will have next year, is just like how different disciplines approach this topic and maybe come to different viewpoints or use slightly different terms. And we would have to like work a bit more on, do they actually mean different things by that, or does this have different policy implications if we talk about a global scale or a planetary scale, and what are the historical implications of both terms? Yeah, and maybe that will be also a great topic to discuss further on the workshop day.
Yeah, thanks. Maybe we can follow up after this conversation on this topic. Thank you, Rosine. Yeah.
Okay, then I want to take Isadora as our next speakers.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for the presentation. It's nice to meet the Justice team finally. I mean, even if it's in the virtual terms, but I've been looking forward to knowing the people behind the construction of this very important topic or team focal topic for next year in the Institute. And my question would be, yeah, I'd be interested to know if you are planning to have some intersectional approach, or how would you, if intersectionality is a thing that you've been thinking for the carry out of this focal topic next year, and if so, how is it envisioned that you will have the intersectionality approach, not only in the content of the things that you do, but maybe also in the team or in the selection of the people that you have working as the next fellows. This is it.
Yes, we want to, I think we want to apply an intersectional approach, although I think we are all not an expert in the field, so to say, but I, for example, approached already the Center for Intersectional Justice, also with regard to the fellowship call, and my vision would be to also, for example, approach them for speaking at our public lecture series, for example. And for speaking for myself, this is something I would always take into account and make, yeah, look through the intersectional lens on justice issues. I think it makes sense, especially like, for example, in the example of the mobility transition, what I referred to in the first slide. In those more or less local transitions, I think it's really a relevant topic to link up different kinds of inequalities and discriminations and have like a more comprehensive, more broader picture on how justice or injustices are playing out. And I think this is a perfect example to do this. And I really hope that, for example, we will have a fellow who's working on this. And yeah, so I think this is our approach or how we see this. I think there are other, yeah, I think we need to think this through. And I would also be, I mean, you're I think working on this or thinking about this more. Maybe you can also, yeah, give us your thoughts on this, or how you would like to see this be more prominent maybe in the focal topic here. Isadora.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, sure. I mean, it was just a curiosity. I'm just for the first time now seeing what are the activities that you're planning, but it would be nice to talk more with you and follow up.
Are there any more questions or comments?
If there are no questions, I would like to raise a question to all of you. I mean, we are now planning the kickoff workshop, and we are already having discussions about what we could, what kind of issues, topics we could discuss at the kickoff workshop. But I think I would be really interested in hearing more ideas about what you think would be a relevant topic, even if you don't do research about it. So I think we have a lot of projects that can present research ideas also, but I would also like to see some discussion rounds on topics that you are very concerned about, that you might have not been involved in any kind of research, but that you think oh, here's a very hot issue, or this is a relevant question that we need to discuss, and that might lead to something, or that where we could invite people and so on. So this would be something I would be interested, like beyond our research that we are already doing, questions that you would like to discuss that are, yeah.
Yeah, Manuel.
Yeah, a topic that I feel is generally neglected in public discourse, and that presents numerous rhetoric and narrative opportunities, so to speak, and also concerning justice, is climate change adaptation. I feel that it presents opportunities in a sense of exactly combining issues of local justice, because mostly the people who benefit most from adaptation measures are the people who are most vulnerable also here in Germany. So elderly people, people who cannot pay apartments that count with enough shadow and green and so on. So it's very much also local environmental justice framing there. And on the other hand, at least the so-called naturbasierte Lösung, nature-based solutions for climate change adaptation, they also often bring climate mitigation benefits with them, which you can frame as a global justice contribution. So they have this double optic to argue both for local and for global justice with the same good you're actually advertising. And I think this is often not used enough still, and I would like to see it more in public discourse, and the IASS could possibly contribute to that.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's definitely a point which is very important and still under research. We have a question in the chat by Jean-Henri, who asks what the exactly topic and the goals are for the kickoff workshop.
Yeah, maybe I was a bit fast on that. I'm sorry. So it is, as the name says, a kickoff workshop internally for people at the IASS. So for us to like kind of officially start this focal topic year. Hopefully we can already then tell you who the fellows will be, but mainly the objective or goals of this workshop will be to give everybody, also people who so far have like very little to do with the focal topic, an overview a bit more detailed than we could have today about the research that is already going on. And so there will be short presentations on this by different research groups or researchers who then you can discuss their research with them, see if there are connections, what would be good synergies to find. So we have this opportunity. But then also, as Henrike just said, if you maybe have something that you feel is controversial about justice, where you can have really different opinions on, or which direction should we take, this would be the opportunity where we can have discussion rounds for that. And so we will collect this, and then, so it will be not open on the day, but before, until the 7th of November, if you now have an idea, this you want to really have addressed, send it to us. And we will try to have space of it in the program. Yeah, I hope that clarifies this again.
Yeah, John, do you directly want to repeat to Rosine? Okay.
Yes, well then, thanks. So then I have a note on what you just said. I feel like, I mean, to be able to talk as an institute about the topic of social justice, at least for me, it would be very welcomed if we all had sort of one language of talking about it. And it would be very interesting if in that kickoff workshop, we could have like show what are the different, maybe even theoretical approaches to justice. What do they mean? How could they be operationalized? And then let's say try to figure out what a common ground would be, so that moving forward we have like same terms for stuff that we want to talk about. And I think that that would be pretty constructive.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's also part of the goal of the workshop. Manuel, did you forget to take down your hand, or do you still want to give some input?
No, I just forgot.
Okay.
Maybe just a quick question, because I can't remember if you just talked about it. There was some weeks ago, there was the idea to have like a theory group that would explicitly address the questions that I just posed. Is that still in consideration, or I mean, you probably have your hands full with other stuff, but I can't remember if you're still thinking about that, or if that's from the table, off the table.
No, I think this is still planned, but I think we will start with this by the beginning of next year. And yeah, a common language on justice issues. Seeing all the diversity in this topic, I think it's a huge challenge already also within our institute, but I think this should be a goal that or a challenge that we should accept and should try to move forward or move towards some kind of common language. And yes, for the theory group, I think we will do this. I'm not sure if every group or everyone at the ISS will be interested, or is for everyone, if it's relevant to like talk about concepts and so on. Partly yes, maybe, but maybe not in this kind of detail. But I think, yeah, for those interested, we are still planning this theory group, of course, yes. Maybe we can have like a more general discussion on concepts and theories at the workshop, and yeah, maybe come to some kind of common language or pitch that we can use for communication. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, Pia, do you want to go forward with your contribution?
Thank you. So it was basically just a reiteration of what Henrike said at the end. I don't assume that we'll find a common definition of justice that would actually fit all our research groups, projects, and strands and traditions. So instead of aiming for a shared or common definition in the sense of a common or shared truth, I'd say we would rather dedicate some time in exploring those concepts and exploring overlap, and also a sort of divergence where we simply can't agree. And instead of shoehorning all of those into just one approach, it would be good to sort of know where there is where there are different concepts and different methods and so on that are being deployed at IASS, and all of them might be valid. So yeah, I think that would be my take on this.
I agree, and it's good and interesting for me to hear those different opinions about it. I think this is good also for the preparation of the workshop again. Okay, Alexandra, sorry.
Alexandra, do you want to add something?
Yes, I just remembered that when we did the Global South workshop with the fellow group, we sent out a Google form before asking about what does the Global South mean for you, or what are specific questions that you have. Maybe that could be an idea we could do before the kickoff workshop also, apart from like this call to send things to the email address. Maybe that's also quite an easy way to get feedback from many people from the Institute and get a bit an overview of like different relevant topics, or maybe use another tool like some sort of a pin board where you can put up some thesis and comments. Maybe I'm also part of the core group, so maybe that could be something we could speak about or think about.
Yeah, I think that that's a very nice idea. So we already have almost 3 p.m. Do we want to make the discussion round longer if there are no other questions?
I think, should we conclude? I think it's 2 before 3. Yeah, thank you everyone for coming and for the good discussions. I think it was also interesting for me to get this kind of feedback, and yeah, hope to see you all at the kickoff workshop and personal conversations which we are planning to have, of course, with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.